So welcome back. For our next session, we have a keynote speaker. It's Anton Andersson, who's going to discuss the value of social media marketing in the real estate industry. So very welcome, Anton.
Thank you so much.
How are you today?
I'm all good, thank you.
Perfect. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I've been working with social marketing for different ad companies the last 6 years. The past 2 years for Facebook in Dublin, but now I'm back as the business director for social industries.
Yeah, could you actually say that I might be your boss?
One could say that, yes.
How do you like your new job?
Well, I couldn't have it better anywhere else.
Well, I can't wait to hear what you have to say, so the stage is yours.
Thank you so much. Hi everyone, I'm here to talk about the 3 things that you need to know about social marketing if you're in real estate, which should be really convenient. The first thing is that in social media today, nobody cares about you. It's a tough thing to accept, I know. I say this like I would be happy about it, believe me, I'm not. But it's the truth, and I've got the data with me to share with you later on. Again, nobody cares about you, and it's okay to hate me for saying this. I guess it's only fair. I think it's because it hasn't really always been like this. The last couple of years, we've experienced a massive change in how people expose themselves to brands, so that's probably the reason behind it. Let's look at a bit of history. Back in 2015, all of a sudden, as a Facebook user, you were actually able to talk to brands for the first time. And let me tell you, people were absolutely amazed by this. Being able to chat live with a brand that you or your friend used to love, that was like the equivalent to having the phone number to Bill Gates or Donatella Versace. We were managing so many brand pages back then, and people just repeatedly kept messaging us basically the same message over and over again, like, is this really Heineken, or is this really Toys R Us? And so we replied something similar to yes, and they freaked out about that. There were screenshots, there were shares that shit could go live in a night. However, things changed. If we receive, and I say if because people rarely chat with brands anymore, if we receive a direct message from a user on Facebook or Instagram today, it's almost always something bad, like, how could you say this or that? Or how could you not say this or that? Your brand, your design, your CFO, your CMO, your COO, whatever, your overall customer experience sucks. So based on that, let me rephrase myself and my previous statement. Today, nobody cares about you on social media unless they have something really unpleasant to say about you. Let's go back one more year, 2014. We're now finally at that day that I promised to share with you earlier. 7 years ago, 30% of all reach on social media was from brands posting stuff. That's like a third of all content that you saw. Mostly brands posting something that they thought was funny or witty, and we used to love that stuff. I have 2 examples with me. First one is this. It's raining outside, and look, there's Carlsberg beer with an umbrella. That is funny. 2015, that's super funny. You would have liked that, I sure would. This is the other one. A Volvo car dressed up in Christmas tree lights in December. I mean, the timing on that is hilarious. Let's like it, let's share it, let's talk to all of our friends about it. Reach was through the roof. The brands obviously love that. Guess who didn't love it? Guess who didn't feel all cheerful and happy about this free form of advertising that was now utilized by thousands of brands all over the world? One guess. This guy. And that's not a surprise, really. I don't know how many of you who saw the Social Network movie that was on air like 2010 or 11. Doesn't really matter. One can absolutely say that this free form of advertising didn't fit his business model like at all. So in Menlo Park, where they still have their headquarters, he went down to the engineers to have a little chat about it, and they decided to do a slight adjustment to the algorithm triggered by interaction, the same algorithm that decided how much reach should be affected by a stat. Just a slight change, nothing big. A couple of years later, this is where we ended up. 2% of all reach on social is from brands today. Over 6 years, we went from 30 to 2%. Out of those 2%, it's important to know that 200 companies, like big major companies like Kylie Cosmetics, Netflix, Nike, Adidas, Airbnb, they constitute 2/3 of that 2%. So it's not easy to get up there. Not everything is this guy's fault, though. As I said earlier, people's behavior on these platforms has changed drastically. Out of all social media users, we're talking more than 4 billion active users every month. Only 6% ages 25 to 64 browse or search for brands on a weekly basis. The rest of them, the 94% of the users that is only exposed to brands through targeted and therefore paid for content, ads. I reached the end of my first topic for this presentation, and we're back at the conclusion and the original statement. In social media today, apparently nobody cares about you, at least not anymore. I'll use that as a perfect segue into our next topic, which is you will get nothing for free. You will get nothing for free. Since those first blessed years, 2014 and 2015, a little bit of 2016, it's become rather obvious that if you run a business, you need to pay for your presence on social media. With more than 7 million active social media advertisers worldwide, I guess it's fair to say that, yeah, sure, we must have a working system in order to decide which brand should be exposed to whom and when. It's also fair to say that, yes, this system should be paid for by those who would like to be featured on there. Nothing weird about that. And just like we've been doing for hundreds and hundreds of years, we as brands trying to advertise to potential clients have to put good money in order to get in the face of those that we hope should see our products or services. What's new, however, is that through social media, for the first time in advertising history, we don't have to waste any money. And what do I mean by that? Well, for years and years, in order to find someone, like literally just one person, one new lead, one new client, customer, or subscriber, you had to expose yourself to so many. You did this through billboards like this one, newspapers, TV, radio ads, meaning that you paid a lot of good money to reach through to a lot of people who would never even consider to do whatever it was that you wanted them to do. And then social came around and gave us the alternative. Finally, we were able to target and expose only those who fitted our profile, persona, or segment. Basically our dream client or customer. And it works. It works because these platforms knows everything about its logged in user. And if you as an advertising brand are willing to pay to be there, they will let you in on their secrets. They will let you utilize those tools, that data. I want you to remember that these are platforms so good at what they're doing in terms of data and advertising that they're almost illegal. That said, you still need to know what you're doing when advertising on there, of course. Even though it's possible to only target those who are likely to care about you, it's quite easy to get lost in these very sort of intricate advertising systems. Explained in a very simple way, one could say that advertising through these platforms is a bit like being on an auction. The advertiser within a specific vertical that offers the highest bid ends up reaching its intended audience. This means that the higher the number of competing advertisers there are at the same time, the higher you need to bid in order to win. However, and I'm sorry to complicate things, but when you're bidding, actual money isn't the only thing that matters. I say that one more time, actual money isn't the only thing that matters, and this is where it gets interesting. Equally important as money is the content. And by content, I mean the picture or the video that you're trying to get up there. If you try to buy space for something that Facebook or Google believe, or that they know, I should say, based on the data that they have, that their users is going to find as something boring, dull, or in other ways offensive, you're going to end up paying a lot of extra money just to get that through. One can say that the advertiser with the best content get the best deal. This way, Facebook and similar platforms ensures that the content on their platform stays relevant to its users, which is very much needed to get the user to stay and for them to have a good time. So if you know about this, this is really a win-win to everyone. Luckily for your industry, the real estate industry that is, the competition isn't really that tough to beat. And why is that? You guys sure doesn't lack any money. Every year, the real estate industry pours $8 billion into social advertising alone. Even so, you tend to pay way much more money for reaching the same amount of people compared to a bunch of other industries like fashion or home electronics. And you might say, yeah, well, you know, it's okay. The real estate is a long tail thing and people buy it on rare occasions and it's years and years apart, so it's okay to pay more. I don't agree with you at all. Explain to me then why you guys in real estate should pay 22% more on a yearly basis to reach the exact same amount of people as they do in the car and automobile industry. Or why you pay 30% more on a yearly basis compared to the bank and fintech industry, which I think is fair to say also very much counts as a long tail affair. It doesn't add up. Once again, I will break the hard truth to you, and hopefully you already figured it out now that you know how the auction system works. Remember, money plus great content equals good deals in terms of people reach for that money. So then, the problem clearly is in the content, and compared to both automobile and fintech, real estate for some reason is still way behind. I can't show you what good content looks like compared to bad content. It differs between regions, cultures, and a bunch of other demographics. But what I can tell you is the same thing, that you will get nothing for free. And this is a super common misconception about the entirety of doing content for social media advertising. You remember that $8 billion that you spend each year just to gain reach on Facebook. I don't necessarily want you to spend more money on these platforms, but I desperately want to encourage you to reprioritize how you spend that money. If you were to spend 10 to 15% less on reach and instead put that money behind the development and the conceptualization of your campaigns, your videos, your pictures, your brand message, just imagine where you could be in terms of beating the competition. Good content is the only thing missing in order to be better than everyone else within your vertical. That takes us to our third and final topic for today, and it's this. You need to be where your clients are. You need to be where your clients are. Let's start off by some history again. 2019, a couple of years ago in UK, for the first time ever, all age groups between 16 to 65 spent more time viewing commercial content through social and digital each day compared to linear television. This is a huge thing. We've seen this coming for a while, so did you probably, but for the first time ever, social and digital actually tipped the scale over in favor, and it became the most frequently used ad space among basically everyone. During 2020, the rest of Europe, as we did so many times before, was to follow the UK example. Social and digital ad space is taking over everywhere. This year is estimated that roughly 70% of all commercial content will be through social channels such as Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and other pay-per-view platforms. We're experiencing a massive exponential growth here, and we're in the middle of that big jump right now. At this phase, 6 years from now, with the now elderly population sort of dying off and the soon-to-be elderly population getting more and more digital, we're looking at a world where 98% of all commercial content will be channeled through social and digital platforms of the future. 2020 was also the year when we saw a bunch of some really heavy, old, classic, but very important advertisers shift their budgets towards social and digital instead. All of a sudden, major players like Procter & Gamble, Unilever, Nestlé, and Deloitte, they all started buying up entire advertising agencies to do their bidding for them. And they did this rather than making new commercial deals with Fox, CBS News, Channel 4, like they did so many times before. They have all realized that the sooner they manage to conquer this new ad space, the lower the competition and the higher the return on investment will be. Of course, there's a bunch of other independent big brands as well that already made these shifts years ago. When we reviewed some of the world's most successful brands in terms of growth, it's clear where they spend their advertising dollars. Airbnb, Uber, Amazon, Visa, MasterCard, Alibaba, and Apple, they all spend the majority of their ads budget on social and digital platforms. Now, why is this? Well, hopefully we already have the answer to that. These brands know that this is, or is soon to be, the most frequently used ad space among everyone, everywhere. The other reason, and we talked about this one before, is that if done right, you don't have to waste any money. You don't have to spend money on people who is not relevant to you anymore. And so far, this is the unbeatable power of social and digital advertising compared to all other alternatives. I'm beginning to wrap up now, but first, is there any vertical that stands out, you might ask? Yes, sure, there's a lot of industries that haven't yet adapted to this new sort of advertising climate. You remember, people don't like change. In the beginning of 2019, Quora conducted a global survey among a bunch of different industries, and the housing and real estate business estimated that they would increase their social and digital presence by anywhere between 10 to 15%, going from a total of 20 to maybe anywhere between 30 to 35%, best case scenario. What that means in reality today, what they said is that you are going to allocate 70% of your marketing budgets towards channels that is dominated by roughly 12% of your core audience. 12%. Simply put, if you want your money's worth, that's a really, really shitty idea. You need to be where your clients are. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anton.
Thank you.
Did I understand you correctly that you said that real estate on average pays 30% more for their ad spend on Facebook?
Yeah, that is correct. To reach the exact same amount of people on a yearly basis, yes.
But 30% more?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Well, it all boils down to content, really. That's what they're missing.
So real estate agencies are the worst people on internet when it comes to content?
No, they're not, but they surely could do better. They tend to focus too much on their bidding process and too much on their objects, I think, and not that much on what people really want to see when they spend time on social or digital media.
Well, how would you, is it possible to kind of say something very specific about the importance of content? How should you solve that issue?
You need to try out what's working for you on your specific market. I mean, it's different in Sweden compared to US, I'm sure, but you need to try different things. You need to start thinking about these content pieces that you're trying to get up there. You need to start developing those based on the data that keeps coming in constantly, based on the content that you have there currently. So it's really a trial and error thing.
What is it? How do you? What is your best key takeaway for how to? What do you see in the future that real estate agents and all other industries as well need to do to prepare for the future?
Well, first of all, I mean, content aside, that's one issue or one challenge that they need to solve. The other thing is that with more and more data coming in, they must ensure that they have a way of actually handling that data. There are so many advertising agencies today handling real estate accounts that's not using simple things like the Facebook pixel or Google's equivalent to that Facebook pixel. And without that, it's not possible to do their targeting right. They can't choose objectives like actual conversions or actual leads. They can only buy reach and traffic into site, basically. And that's not a cost-efficient way of doing social. So going into the future, that's something that you need to have in place. That's a hygiene factor that everyone needs to sort out.
Thank you, Anton. That's very insightful.
Thank you.
However, you do need to stay online because we have more to come. And next, we have a panel discussion about the new role of digital in the property journey. So stay online. So welcome to this next session, which is a panel discussion. We have a group of experts joining us to shine some light on this day's topics, which is the new role of digital in the property journey. I really need those experts for this segment, so I'm happy to welcome Cathy, Zane, Sydney, and Julie. Welcome to my Stockholm studio.
Thank you.
How are you today?
Great.
Fantastic.
Very good.
Sounds very good. I'm going to ask you to give a brief introduction to yourselves and why you are here today as experts. So let's start with Cathy.
Good morning, Cathy Harrington. I'm the VP of Marketing with Lyon Real Estate. Work with about 1,000 agents here in Northern California in helping them be the best possible agent they can be and reach consumers where consumers want to be reached.
Cool. And Zane, welcome.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
Good, how are you?
Very good.
My name is Zane I'm sorry?
No, please continue.
My name is Zane Burnett. I am the Chief Digital Officer of Willis Allen Real Estate. We're a luxury boutique firm in the San Diego County area. And I've spent the last 10 years or so in the real estate space, handling marketing, tech, and the intersection of the two.
Cool. Welcome. And Sydney, welcome.
Good morning. Thank you. My name is Sydney Perry. I'm our Director of Digital Content with the Corcoran Group. My focus is primarily on social media and digital content for the brokerage agents, which are in New York City, the Hamptons, and South Florida, and managing our partnership with Adfenix.
Cool. And then we have Julie. Welcome to our studio.
Yes, thank you so much. My name is Julie Kozick. I'm the Executive Vice President for Dilbeck Real Estate in Southern California. We have 10 offices in Los Angeles. I have been in the real estate industry for over 18 years and have helped many different companies with their technology platforms and digital, and moving really that bar in real estate and giving the consumers what they need, giving the agents what they need, and how we can just really be better at what we do all the way around.
So together, I think we have about 100 years of experience, so we should be able to shine some light on today's topic, right?
Absolutely.
Let me ask you and start this discussion and maybe direct the question to you, Cathy. How would you say that the real estate industry has changed for this last decade?
Mm-hmm. Well, monumentally. I think for some of us on this call, we were doing print advertising when, real estate agents, were trying to reach consumers and spending, monumental amounts of money with very little return and no ability to measure that return. Now consumers are actually in many ways more sophisticated than the agents that they work with. They're the ones in many cases driving the questions around, who's going to see my property? Where is my property going to be seen? How are you going to access and reach consumers to potentially buy my house from 25, 50 miles away? And they're the ones that in many cases are pushing this with brokerages. And so we are seeing a consumer that is spending a tremendous amount of time online, especially if you're looking at the millennials. And so they want measurable results. Are you going to be able to get people to my open house and how? And so we've seen a huge shift, and we as brokers and agents are working really hard to meet that new demand.
But do you think that this new attitude is a direct effect of digital development?
Absolutely, I do, because before digital, our results, our ads, our marketing efforts were not measurable. Right. And so now with AI targeting, for instance, where consumers are, every single thing that they do is tracked online, their preferences, their desires, what they click on, everything is being tracked. And so all of that data is being collected by brokers, is being able to be analyzed by us, whether we like it or not. There's a downside to that, as we all know. But in terms of property marketing, it's a positive thing, and I think that consumers are expecting a lot as a result.
Do you think that this is that might be difficult to know, but has this development surprised you, or what is the most surprising development for this past decade, you think?
So in terms of property marketing, I think what's surprising is the fact that it's a bigger issue probably, but where all the data is being used and how that data is being marketed to. We all know online, every single place we go, the songs we listen to, right, the movies we watch, the vacations we take, every single thing is coming back at us and is being served back to us based on our behavior. And I think that's something that it can be good, but it also can be very invasive. And I think that that is something that is been very, very surprising to consumers.
Sydney, can I ask you, I mean, do you feel that the real estate industry is, in the forefront when it comes to digital development and really following this development, which is a factor in every industry and society as a whole?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that real estate is one of the more unique industries in the sense that the whole reason why consumers would work with a potential real estate agent is because they connect with them personally. So another side of the digital development that I'm seeing, especially in real estate, is that these real estate agencies, especially our brand, is becoming more humanized and more personal and more authentic. And I think that that's another really large development with the digital trends. So our marketing efforts and our digital marketing is no longer just, about data and putting our ads out there, but it's really about customizing our buyer's experience or our customer's experience and making that authentic connection with users to then generate more business.
And if you're guessing, would you say that this is more difficult or easier in the new digital era?
I think that there's a more recent shift in, it was a little bit more difficult before because we didn't have necessarily as much information to utilize. Obviously now with the larger social media platforms changing some of their rules, we are seeing more increased difficulty in terms of targeting. However, there's the other side of that coin where it's easier to be more personal because we do have a better understanding of who our clients and our potential audience is so that we can better understand them to give them a better user experience, educate them better, and make those connections.
What do you think the most common mistake is when you're trying to adapt to this? And I think it's very interesting what you're saying about, the very personalized relationship you need to have with your audience. What do you think is the most common mistake to make?
I think probably the most common mistake would be to not take the time to understand who your audience is or understand who your potential clients are and understand what their genuine needs and concerns are throughout their buying process. We really utilize our agents as these great pools of information. And I think if you don't take the time to understand what the needs of your audience is and utilize the tools, which are your agents, to help fulfill their needs, then you're really missing an opportunity to generate that business with them.
Zane, do you agree with this vision of the changes in the industry, this very dramatic change?
Yeah, we've seen it across the board. There's the added element of the fact that for the only time in the history of humanity, presumably, we're having to bifurcate between, digital natives and non. And so to Sydney's point and also to Cathy's point, to be able to personalize that experience for many reasons becomes a bit more difficult. We've read every article that there is to be read about millennials versus baby boomers. And then now we have Gen Z coming up behind millennials. Even as we navigate this era of digital in an environment where there are natives and non-natives, so to speak, it can be tough, but it's also exciting. It's challenging. And, to Sydney's point, real estate as an industry is very unique in how it's positioned to be able to take advantage of the opportunities that exist right now.
Do you think that there are differences between, both different regions in the US, but also other markets globally, this development and, how real estate agents are meeting them?
Yeah, having a lot of friends like Julie and Cathy and Sydney that are in different parts of the country, and as with anything else, as we've seen in the media, there are differences region by region in terms of what messages hit home. I'm sure that, when Sydney is developing something for her audience in the Hamptons, it might be a little bit different than just, going across the bridge to the city or even down to South Florida. So that all speaks to this idea of personalization. We have the ability and the opportunity to be able to create a message that's dynamic in terms of who's receiving it. And yeah, that's part of the challenge, is to identify what message will reverberate the most depending on where it's landing.
This development, from my perspective, also requires, a different set of, different staffing or a new knowledge. How can you meet those demands? Do you understand what I'm after?
Yeah, I do. And part of the unique position of being in this industry is that real estate by nature is, categorized as a professional services industry. They're not a product industry by and large. And so one of the things that has changed is this rapid desire to be able to maintain relevance in the digital landscape. And, part of that means hiring staff that's well-versed in that and training up on that. But part of that is also being able to pick the right partners when it comes to providing those products that can enable you to have the reach and the efficacy in that digital landscape. And so it's a healthy mix. It's, to answer your question, it's finding the right staff. We're hired, 10 years ago, I don't know how many brokers were hiring, social media managers. Now I think, that's pretty ubiquitous with every job or with every industry. But at the same time, I don't know that every real estate brokerage is going to have the resources or the desire to hire a team of digital advertisers. And so, you're kind of met with the challenge of being able to hire versus partner with product companies.
Sydney, you have a lot of experience. Do you see that, can you see differences in this development in your industry compared to other industries?
Of course, there are nuanced differences. As we all know, real estate is a very nuanced industry. I think that the core base of it, though, is the fact that digital is becoming more and more prevalent. We now live in a day where you do not have an option to not utilize digital marketing. And I think that at the end of the day, every industry is looking to better personalize and to better serve their customers. And again, it's all about just having that correct message and, touching your audience at different touch points of where they are in their buyer's journey. And having the ability to do that digitally increases all of those different avenues and the opportunities to reach your audience at all those different points.
Julie, do you agree that, there's a constant talk about real estate needing to become more digital? Do you agree with that?
I think it's a very interesting time that we're living in, because I think that you have people on both sides. You have an older generation, and then you have the new younger generation. So you have this, for the first time ever, we have a huge mix here where we've got the young people coming in completely digital, techie excited. Then you've got an older group that wants to be that, but they're not quite as into it as the younger group is. So I think that you have to really look at more of a human side of this. I totally agree with the thought of doing things where it's personalized. We're talking about how, where do you want to live? It's your lifestyle. How do you want to live? How do we want to be as people moving forward? We're in a time that we've never experienced ever, anyone in our lifetime, to where now we're doing things in very different ways. I've talked to people about this before. When Wall Street gets involved in an industry, it's because they see there is something there that needs to change. They're putting money because they see. If I look at anything, I think the real estate industry has been extremely slow to move into the digital era. This should have happened years ago as you look into other companies. I mean, look how well Amazon has done. And they started out selling books, but they saw that need, and that's where we are now. The transparency, the ease of use, taking away pain points. These are people's biggest things in their lives usually is home ownership. We change people's lives. This is really an important piece. So how do we get to consumers? The technology is fantastic because it has enabled us to be able to cast a wider net to people that normally, as Cathy mentioned, back in the day with print ads, that was local. And you might get into a big city, but generally speaking, digital has opened us up globally. So we now are looking at global platforms to where people now are aware of other areas and other opportunities for how they can live their lives. Places where their children are now going to go to school, and they're purchasing homes in those states for their kids to go to school. So it is a very different deal and industry today than it was back when we started many years ago, but it's exciting. It can be frightening for some people, but I think it's exciting. But I think it's important to have a mix of both. The pendulum has swung on technology, but you can't go so far to technology that you leave a lot of people behind who own homes. So it's up to us to bring it together to where we can service everyone at the best level that we possibly can, because we're a beacon of light and hope. Home ownership, that is something that families want. That's what people really, when they're working, they feel, I'm doing something, I'm owning a home. That's going to be your biggest investment in your lifetime to the investment for your future. So these are important times, and we need to look at the whole picture, and absolutely technology is there. I love the AI part to where it can get to more people, but we have to remember that not everybody's always on those platforms. So it's a nice balancing act of both.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting what you're saying, that it also differs a lot between different target groups, if we call them that. Can I ask you, Cathy, do you really think that, a digital transformation is necessary in every target group? Because we're not all millennials or Gen Z, and we have different needs also when it comes to this.
No, I agree with Julie said. You got to reach consumers where they are. If you're talking about millennials and Gen Z, they expect measurable data. They expect that you are going to meet them where they are. If you're talking about the baby boomers, I'm a baby boomer, but there are a lot of people who are baby boomers who are not even on technology. They're not going to see these digital ads, right? So you have to be, as a real estate agent, the average age of a real estate agent, I believe, is in the US is 53 years old, right? So even within the agent pool, you have agents who are very, very tech savvy and some that are not. As a brokerage firm, our job is to help all of our agents meet the needs of their consumers, no matter what strata they are, no matter how technologically savvy they are, right? And so I think that, we need to be able to have a wide range of offerings for different folks that are selling their home. But I also believe it's important for us as brokerages to be able to coach and train our agents to bring value to a homeowner, even if they don't understand the landscape, right? If a consumer is selling their home, they're in their 70s, they've owned their home for 50 years, they might not necessarily be online, but the agent's job is to help them stretch and make sure that they are accessing consumers who might be good home buying prospects, right? you might have someone like, we're in the San Francisco Bay Area. And so our largest feeder market is San Francisco. We're 2 hours outside of San Francisco. So how do we reach those folks? We reach them through AI behavioral targeting. And so our agents do not have, in many cases, the savvy, the time and whatnot to actually be placing those ads on Facebook themselves, nor do they have the ability to target anymore, thanks to all the changes that have been made by Facebook, right? So the AI behavioral targeting allows them the reach, it allows them the targeting, it allows them the ability to access new audiences that may be interested in buying investment properties, buying a vacation home in an area that's very different from where they live right now. So,
well, talking to all of you, I can't help but to think that, the more digital, develops, it actually just raises the demands for agents and everyone in real estate, really. Zane, what do you think is the biggest challenge to work in this industry today when you need to, be able to jump between Gen Z and, maybe a totally non-digital generation?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is, best stated, by quoting that old adage, you can please some of the people all the time, but you can never please all of the people all of the time. That is the balancing act, I think, of people in our roles. It doesn't matter to an extent that upwards of 90% of all home searches begin online. You can say that, to Cathy's point, to somebody who's data driven, but say that to somebody who sees prestige or who sees a sense of pedigree in a brand or a logo on a billboard or in a spread in the Wall Street Journal, and the stats don't matter. And so what we're constantly having to do is balance that. And I think that's the biggest challenge because, for as much as a financial investment as a double truck in the Wall Street Journal is, we can reach the southern half of California online. And so being able to sate the needs and desires of both our agents and our consumers, because I think everybody will agree on this call that our agents are our customers also. And so we have to figure out how to keep them happy while still doing what makes sense. And that's not to say that agents don't know what makes sense, but it is to say that it's a constant balancing act. I think that time has allowed us to shift substantially the amount of resources earmarked for print. So that change has been a slow tide. But it is one that continues to gain momentum as the ubiquitous nature of digital and real estate in this world today sort of starts to make sense to those who might not have been used to it 10 years ago. And that's the challenge that I face a lot. And I'm sure that I'm not alone when I say I'd love to just never spend another dollar on print again. I don't know that that's going to happen as long as I'm sitting here.
Okay.
And that's a challenge.
But Julie, what do you see in the future in terms of this development? Will it be even more complicated than it already is? Or what do you see is going to happen?
I think that we are making such great strides and changes in the industry within technology. And I know that so many people are working for this balance that I do believe that we will find exactly what that balance is, because we're all very aware that we want to do the best we can for the consumer, our customers, and for our agents, because what we do is arm the agents to go out and work with their clients, that is the consumer. And so, and it is true, everyone is looking on other search engines, the big ones for, that's the sphere of influence. They're already on those search engines, and that's okay. But when it comes down to actually coming to purchase the home, they need people who locally understand what is going on in that local market. Not only do they understand the pricing, but really how does the area live, so that you can speak to lifestyle. And again, it comes down to how people want to raise their families or how they want to live themselves. I mean, do they want to travel? Do they want to stay home? Things have changed so much, but I do believe that people are working on this all the time, and you're going to see that we find just that perfect match. We've made such huge strides in the last, I'd even say 5 years. You've seen major changes, and agents who are now really embracing this more and more, and they know they need to learn it, and they know, and they want to learn it. And I think it's making things where it's easy, it's affordable, it gets out to the right people. And again, casting that the widest net so that we can help people sell their homes and help people find the homes that they're really looking for. Because a lot of times, especially a buyer, they don't really know what they want. They think they do, but they end up buying something completely different at the end of the day, because you don't know what you don't know till you get out there and look.
Sydney, what do you see in the next 5 years? What will be the biggest change that we'll look back on then?
I can only imagine the advances that are going to be continually made in the digital landscape. And I think that the biggest change is that brokerages are going to shift more of their focus into educating their agents, because as much as we know as the experts in our own brokerages and industry, it's up to us to then, teach our agents how to then relay that information back to their clients and to their consumers. Because as much as a client may like to see print and that brand awareness within a tangible physical space, the reality is it's shifting, and the next generation of buyers is going to be increasing with those tech savvy digital natives first. So it's up to us to teach our agents how to communicate that back to their sellers, buyers, renters, etc.
And Cathy, can I ask you? What in terms of those predictions, what do you see that? What is it that you in your role and your company need to change for the next 5 years to be able to follow this development?
So I agree that what we need to do is, our role as the broker is to always be on top of what the consumer's needs are, and to help our agents digest it, help them, build, partner with the best companies that can help them meet the needs of today's consumer, whatever that is. Their job is to sell real estate. And one of our biggest jobs is to help them sell real estate. And again, partner. Zane mentioned a third party. And I think one of the things that brokerages struggle with is finding scalable solutions, right? If you have a brokerage with 500, 800, 1,000 or more real estate agents, and you're trying to find a solution for social media, for instance, to help all those agents, very hard to find a scalable solution. So I think you've got to find the right third-party company that can automate solutions, because we want automation. Automation is going to be critical for real estate agents moving forward. We need to be able to have them sell homes and not be placing Facebook ads, not designing their own marketing materials. And so I think, again, it's up to us to really stay on top of that and to help our agents learn and meet the consumer where they need to be.
So I'm going to ask you all to give us one key advice based on your experience on how to take on this. I mean, we can all agree that digital has changed the industry, but it also is going to continue to change. So what would be your key advice, for the next 5 years? Let's start with you, Zane.
Sure. Well, I'll take this opportunity to say one of the things I've learned is that in digital and on the internet, things tend to be forever. So I'm going to take this opportunity to recant my statement when I said that I would never spend another dollar on print, as I'm surrounded by print.
That's a very clear advice, I think. That's a good advice, and I agree with you. I'm on your team in that.
Yeah. So, and on that, I'll say that my advice, and I'll make it relevant to the last statement, would be: we've shifted from an environment where print kind of supported digital, or where digital supported print, and we live in a world now where print can support digital. And so, what I mean by that is there is still a place for print in terms of brand awareness. Extending reach and to be able to hit a certain market. But in digital, the restrictions are almost limitless. So make sure that your digital image is in line with whatever image you're portraying in the pieces of print collateral that are going out to maintain brand consistency. Because at the end of the day, that's where people are going to be spending most of their time.
And Julie, where would you say that we should put our ad money for the next 5 years?
Yeah, I would agree. And again, like I mentioned, I think it's a mix of both, but definitely on the technology side for sure. I think my biggest advice would be that when you have technology, there's a lot of wonderful products out there, but everything needs to integrate. It cannot be standalone products piecemealed for real estate companies. They've got to have it where all systems integrate together and it's easy to use. And it goes out, because whenever it's piecemeal, that's when it gets really difficult to get the integration. We can have the best technology ever, but if an agent can't use it or they don't use it, it doesn't mean anything. You have to make it to where it's easy to use. And it is up to the marketing teams to make sure the messaging is correct. But again, if it isn't a system that is easy to use, then it doesn't matter what you're doing, because it's not going to be pushed out there. That's my advice.
And what do you say, Sydney? Because you actually also work with digital content, and we talk a lot about just technology and placing of ad. But what will the role of the actual content be?
Yeah, I think that it goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of this discussion, is that because there is so much out there digitally that your brand can produce as, a personal agent brand or the brokerage brand, you need to make sure that your content is really providing value to each buyer or consumer wherever they are in their journey. So I think that the content really needs to be authentic. It needs to accurately portray your brand image. And then it also needs to help educate them and get them one step closer to their goal, which, maybe buying, selling, or renting a home.
Yeah, I think you're very right about that. Cathy, help us to wrap up this session. What will be your last words of advice to our audience?
So I think there have been so many thoughts that have been really valid today from all the panelists. I think that I'm going to double down on automation. Because working with real estate agents for so long, I think they need solutions that are easy and effective. I agree so much with what Julie said about this being a completely unique time in this industry, and that agents need to be as on top as possible of, again, providing great content, leveraging storytelling. What are they actually trying to help their consumers do? They're trying to help them. They're not trying to help them buy a house. They're just also trying to help them understand the lifestyle of that, what that house is going to bring. So storytelling, automation, balancing the right marketing, whether it's digital as well as some print. We know that we do still have to balance, as Zane said, what we are putting out there for our consumers, especially at the high end where print actually still lives. And Sydney, also you've made some great points today about storytelling and about content. So I think, again, this is just a really unique time. It's going to be growing faster than ever. We think we've seen a lot the last 5 years. Just wait to see what the next 5 years are going to bring.
Yeah, I really want to thank you all for some very insightful advice. And I think it's we can all agree that, there's a need for, making something that's actually quite complicated nowadays easier. And I think that you all shone some light on that today, hopefully. Thank you all for today. And I hope this digital panel was okay for everyone. But you can't go offline yet because we still have some sessions to go, and we hope you enjoyed this discussion. But stay tuned for our next session, where we have an expert from Adfenix to talk about trends and tools for the real estate demand generation. Stay online for that.
It's a great delight to be presenting at this year's Real Conference. As Emma has said, my name is Munya Hoto and I am the Chief Customer and Marketing Officer at Adfenix, and I'm pretty delighted to be presenting this conference together with my team. One of the things that I think really matters at this point in time is looking at how the digital landscape is changing from a consumer and business point of view, and what trends we are seeing and how we can predict that those will actually begin to have an impact on how real estate is transacted going forward. So just to dive into it, one of the critical points of view that have become almost axiomatic in the industry today is the fact that buyers and sellers are now more self-educating, self-directing, largely through content and largely online. But it doesn't stop there. Buyers and sellers are expectant of much richer digital experiences, as you can see on the side. 2/3 of buyers and sellers, they want custom content. They value an experience above just the actual product on its own, and they actively buy from the most innovative companies. And you can already see that, because if you look at our individual lives or our personal lives, the experiences that we're getting from consumer applications that we're using on an ongoing basis, whether that's Uber, Netflix, Deliveroo, we're getting real-time responses to our needs and our wants. And now that's actually moving into some of these larger transactions like property. Quite a challenge for the industry, but something quite important to consider, which is, even though I'm doing a transaction that's worth £500,000 or £1 million to buy a property, what I'm actually expecting from my supplier, even at that time, is the same personalization, the same rich digital experience, the same content nurturing that comes when I go through other applications and processes as well. And anybody that isn't conscious of that, as far as we can tell from the data and the research that we're doing, is going to be left behind. And that's something that we've all got to be conscious of as part of this. So to double down on that, I think, and it's my strong point of view and our belief as a business, that there has been a digital disconnect in some sectors, and real estate is one of those, where there is a shift towards more digital maturity, towards better digital experience. But actually, that disconnect does still exist on the digital experience with respect to some of the assets that we own and that we use to present. So we know, like I've just said, that customers really want a personalized experience, simple and intuitive interfaces, and a tailored experience based on their needs. But oftentimes what you actually find is that when they come to transact property, they're being captured by broad targeting, unless of course they're using Adfenix. They're experiencing static filters on some of the web assets, and the experience is quite generic. And actually, it's kind of counterintuitive. The more money you're spending, the more of a tailored experience you would typically expect. But in real estate, it's been quite the opposite for some time. But we're starting to see that marketplace start to bubble up and start to change. And we're starting to see more innovation and more technology. And we think it's important for the industry to recognize this. And that's part of the reason why we've actually put on this conference and why we've got such great speakers that are ongoing at this point in time. The next thing that I think is really, really key is that if we're going to understand digital transformation and maturity going forward, there's a number of things that have happened over the course of the maturity of the industry itself that help us to actually realize the need for change, and that need is permanent. So if we go all the way back in history, the way properties used to be discovered before there was the World Wide Web is that there was probably somebody with an office in a village or a town who was known as the guy or lady that would sell properties. And eventually, there were enough properties to sell that these started to be put in newspapers as classified advertisements. And over time, the property discovery journey moved from just being in classified ads and in windowsills of estate agent offices to actually being on portals. And then the dominance of portals, we've seen that happen over time. They actually started to really, really invest in owning the search part of discovering properties, and largely through digital. And that's in partnership, of course, with the emergence of the internet and the adoption of internet tools and facilities. But what we're really seeing is that if you're going to be a successful agency and brand, you have to own the next part of the wave of innovation in property. That is to say, you've got to be thinking not just about the transaction part of the property, but actually the discovery process, the nurturing process, the buying process, and then of course the after purchase process of nurturing until your next property or your recommendation comes along. And I think that the most successful brands and agents are the ones that are going to take this mindset and shift to digital permanently as part of the core infrastructure of how they go to market, because that's what we've seen in other sectors, but also it's the natural evolution of the industry from classified advertisements to portals and now to digital enabled agencies and brands. And I really, really believe that fundamentally is where the industry is going. And if we just stick on that point for a moment, we start to see something very, very interesting as well, is that the industry has kind of consolidated around some very singular owners of the discovery process of property. In the UK, you've got massive players like Rightmove and Zoopla. Here in Sweden, we've got the likes of Hemnet and some challenger portals like Beneo. But actually, the way brands are going to be successful in the future and going forward is actually to start thinking about how they can have direct relationships with their customers, even at the discovery point of view, because they can know their customers better, they can have first-party data on their customers, and they can begin to leverage that first-party data set to be able to query it for personalized ongoing experiences, but also customer loyalty. And why do I say this? We're seeing trends of this kind when we look at, for example, brands like Nike in the retail space. What they decided to do was they moved all of their inventory away from Amazon, and they built essentially their own super infrastructure on the websites to allow themselves to have a direct relationship with their customers. So to some extent, what they did was they took their inventory away from the portal and they put it on their own website. So now they have to get better at getting discovered by customers, offering customers excellent digital experiences, but also then nurturing those customers and delighting them in the post-customer experience in order for those customers to come back and buy more services through cross-sell and upsell, but even later in the future. And that's something that is actually fundamentally based on user behavior. If you second the relationship that you have with customers to a third party, eventually customers believe that that's where they get all of their services. And this is where real estate agencies could actually start to innovate. But Nike is not the only one that's done this. Disney, for example, took all of its content off of Netflix. And initially everybody thought, oh, this is a wild idea. Netflix is the marketplace for all media and content, for movies and TV series and so on. And it was a huge gamble for them. But all of us know that now Disney Plus is now one of the largest distributors of entertainment content. And they now have direct relationships with their customers. No longer are people going to Netflix to watch Disney. They go to Disney to watch Disney. And as a result, Disney has better relationships with their customers, and they've got a long-term tenured, rich experience that they're creating for their customers. And again, fundamentally, real estate has an opportunity through the brands that are participating in this conference and others to own and have a direct relationship with their customers, largely through digital, which is why, again, the theme of this conference is about digital enablement and digital transformation for brands. And then finally, just to kind of close that up and to finish the narrative, we really believe that if you can combine the leveraging of key data together with creating infrastructure that is game-changing, online websites, marketing automation tools, channels, and customer centricity at the center of it, you can really have a transformational experience for customers, and you will grow your market share, you will retain your customers, you'll sell more from them through cross-sell and upsell, and you'll actually have long-term longevity as a supplier in that market. And that's it. Some food for thought there, and I really hope you enjoy the rest of this conference and everything that's going on. But fundamentally, the time for digital is now, the time to adopt digital is now, and the time to have game-changing digital experiences for customers is now. Thank you very much.
Hi, and welcome to this next session, which is a success story all the way from New York. So welcome to our Stockholm studio, Maris and Tay.
Hi.
Hi. How are you guys today?
Fabulous. It's a beautiful day in New York City.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Beautiful colors, I assume.
Beautiful colors.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, so I want you to introduce yourself a little bit, Maris. Why don't we start with you? Tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Maris Blumstein. I have been a real estate broker in New York City since 1991, so that's a very long time. And I sell every kind of real estate, studio apartments to mansions in New York City. And I have a large team that works with me. Mm-hmm. And we really enjoy real estate and we love New York City.
That sounds perfect. And what about you, Tay? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm Tay Tawani. I work with the Corcoran Group, and I specialize in townhouses in New York. All across the board, I do townhouses, and that's my expertise. And I've been in the business for about 7 years, and I love every bit of it. I should have gotten in when Maris got in.
Yeah.
So you both love your jobs. Would you say that that's a factor in your success?
Definitely.
Yes, it plays a big part. Big part. You have to love what you do.
So Maris, what you're here to tell us about is your success. Could you tell us why you are such a successful broker?
New York City is a very interesting real estate market, quite different, I feel, from your market. We represent both sellers and buyers. So we have a very different hats to wear all the time, based on the fact that we have to be very smart about dealing with everyone. We have to listen. We have to be prepared at every minute to have a conversation about business. We have to present ourselves in the marketplace and meet people who are looking for real estate in New York in order to create constant business flow. I love the fact that I cover so many different kinds of real estate so that I never get bored. I mean, I love selling townhouses, as Tay does, but I love selling apartments as well. And I just adore the fact that my life is based on referrals from when I first came into the business 30 years ago, because I do listen and I hear, and I want people to be in homes that move them. After all, real estate is one of your biggest investments. So I feel that that's part of my success. Listen, hear, and be very authentic and honest.
And Tay, so you only sell townhouses?
No, I don't only sell townhouses. I do condos and co-ops as well. I specialize in townhouses.
Okay.
So I go really deep into the aesthetics of the property, the history of the property. That's what draws me to townhouses. That's what makes me specialize in townhouses, because I know so much in depth of what a townhouse is and what it is to the inner workings of a townhouse. So I've done construction, I've done ground up renovation, I've done it all. So I'm able to speak to sellers and buyers about that process. So that's what makes me the expert in townhouses. But I do condos and co-ops as well.
And why do you think you've been so successful?
I think I've been successful because I'm not complacent or even looking at my success as being success. So it's always the next thing, right? There's always something more. There's always more to do, and there's always someone that's doing better than you, right? So if you look at your success and you kind of get complacent and you start feeling real comfortable in your space. So to me, if I have a big win, I celebrate it for a short period of time, and then I'm on to the next. I don't really sit back and say, "Oh, I've made it," or "I'm successful." I really just look for that next thing. That next deal. That's the constant. It's a constant chase that keeps you hungry, right? That's where success really comes in at.
And can I ask
you? Really been.
Sorry. Can I ask you both, but start with Maris. Do you think that digital, to some extent, has a role in your success? Like the digital development?
Without question. We can reach so many more people now with the knowledge and the data that allows consumers and sellers to really understand the marketplace we're in and to price their properties properly. They listen to us as brokers and utilize our expertise. The business is just a pleasure that way. And to be able to announce property and to have conversation with people online makes it much more personal than being only on the telephone, basically.
So you and your team are embracing this new development where digital has a bigger role?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Tay, what about the digital development for you? Has that played a role in your success as well?
Absolutely. So I have IT background, so I'm very familiar with computers and technology and how it all comes together and makes life easier for yourself. So I use every single channel from Google to Facebook to Instagram, YouTube, everything across the board, LinkedIn. I'm on all those channels. I think it's very important for someone to be on social media because it's like having your own commercial, right? So if you're constantly out there and people are seeing your face, they're familiar with what you do and that you're the best at it. So, it's like being on CNBC or CNN on a commercial, right? Millions of people are seeing you. And that's the same thing when it comes to social media. People are looking at YouTube. People are constantly looking at their phones 75 times a day. So if they're constantly seeing your face pop up and you're constantly sending a message on a daily basis, then when they're ready to sell or when they're ready to buy, they know who to contact. So it's almost like, just think about having a commercial at Super Bowl, right? So everybody's watching, the world is watching. And as much as you're on social media, the more people start to watch what you're doing.
It sounds like you're both working very, very hard. Is that one of the factors as well?
Without question. I insist for myself and my team that we respond to every phone call within 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So you really need to be available and you have to be ready to think in a very quick and intelligent way in order to keep the business going and keep your eye on the prize, which is getting to a closing table for your clients, for them to be able to get the home that they're interested in living in.
That sounds like a great advice to other agents, but do you have any other advice, Maris, that you would like to share?
I'm telling you, everything is about listening and reacting smartly and not taking this business personally, because real estate is the kind of business that can make you the most insecure person in the world. Because if somebody says no, who said yes yesterday, it's like, did I do something? But it's not you. It's what you're doing. It's your ability to really focus in on what people are saying and really hear them. This is not where you can pick up the phone and do 12 things at one time.
No.
If you're on the phone, if you're with someone, all the social media in the world has to put itself on the side so that you can actually really be with that person and hear what they have to say. And know that some of the things they believe are not actually going to come to fruition or don't actually mean what they think it does. And so you have to hear what they're saying in order to put them in the right place that they haven't even considered.
And Tay, what would you, what kind of advice would you want to share with other agents?
Well, I definitely agree with Maris. There's no way around hard work. You definitely got to put in the hard work, and we're in the people business. So constantly listening to what people have to say and understanding where they're coming from and what their future plans are is key. So for me, I think also I would tell new agents to try to get as much attention as possible. Because if people don't know your face, people don't know what you do, or if you were in a previous profession and you switched over to real estate, no one's going to really know right off the bat what you do. So it's a constant reminder. We're constantly reminding people what we do and we're the person to contact when they're ready to sell or buy.
Well, I would like to thank both of you so much. I'm sure you're a true inspiration for agents, and nonetheless, because you work in such a huge market, and every Swede loves New York, so it's all very fascinating. So thank you so much for sharing these insights with us, and have a fabulous day. So for our next session, we're going to hear Erik Vikander, which is a VP of Svensk Fastighetsförmedling. So stay online for that. So, welcome back. Our final keynote speaker of the day is Erik Vikander of Svensk Fastighetsförmedling. Welcome, Erik. Hi.
Hi, Emma.
How are you today?
Very good, thank you. And you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Well, I've been in the business for quite a long time in various companies. Today I work, and I think I have the longest title in the business or in the whole industry. I'm country manager for Svensk Fastighetsförmedling in Sweden and Spain, a deputy managing director for the company.
Okay, yeah, that was a long time.
Yeah.
What are you here to talk about today?
I'm going to talk about how to get more leads and how to treat the leads to be potential new customers.
Okay, and you've had some successful experience in this area, I assume.
Well, to gain new business is the most important thing when you work with real estate agents. And for me, based in Sweden and mostly of the time working on the Swedish market, it's a bit different than other countries, the business model in Sweden. But still, we have seen that to be able to get more business, we need to attract much more customers and to be able to get them from various situations, from digital contacts or from physical meetings and so on, and to be able to treat them to be a potential customer. And that's quite an interesting customer journey to follow.
Well, we're excited to hear what you have to say. The stage is yours.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's so cool to be part of this conference and to talk about the most important thing that the real estate agents have to gain new business and how do they get more leads out there and how do they work with the leads to get the leads into new business. This is very important and it's also one of the most tricky things to work with, actually. If we look at it in the way of a real estate agent, and I think this is more or less the same in most countries. This is a role that is very busy. You're on the run all the time. Either you are in a meeting with clients, you're at an open house, you're at a photo shooting, or in a negotiation for the bidding process, and back to new client meetings. You barely have no spare time. And spare time is the time, in my meaning, where you should be working with new leads to be able to get your next deal, next business, and to be able to go out on more meetings with clients in the future. It's very easy to predict the upcoming 2-3 weeks, but how do you fill in with more leads in the sales funnel when it comes up to 1 month, 2 months ahead? And if you have to do and think about that, you have to have a process of working and a bit of looking into new ways of working and not the traditional way. We know that it's very hard to be the real estate agent and it's a tough job with a lot of working hours. And we try to find out ways to help our agents. Traditionally, real estate agents, at least in the Swedish market, has worked a lot with direct mailing to be able to present you as a person, to present the listings or what has been sold previously. You have also worked on the Swedish market with traditional paper ads, and the target groups for this is mainly the seller, because on the Swedish market, the seller is the client. The seller is the one who pays your salary. So therefore, to get a new client, a new business is to get a new seller out there. This is the way of showing that you're active on the market, that you have a lot in your pipe out there to sell. That will give the customers confidence and trust in you for the future. But actually, if we look at it a bit deeper, we see that the most important thing, if we look at it and we measure it, why a client choose you as a real estate agent is recommendation. Recommendation from another customer that were very satisfied. And that might be a friend. The normal topic when you meet friends in the Swedish market over a dinner or so is talk about your house or your apartment or your sales process or buying process. That's one of the major topics when you meet people. And therefore, a recommendation in that sense is very good to have. But also to work with recommendation in a more structured way, processed way by various review sites or to work with Google Review and integrate that in your web page. That also gives the impression that you have a lot of customers out there that are willing to recommend you. If we do that and combine that into our own process internally, we can work with the advertising and the recommendation process as part of gaining new leads. But if we go into the modern world or the digitalized world, we have a lot of touch points with the customers. And we have digital touch points, we have the physical meetings in various ways, we have the open house or other kind of viewings of the estate. We also can dig into all the small touch points, like every SMS or text message, web mail sent. Each and every one is a touch point where we can gain new customers. And also, naturally, social media is very essential to be able to present what you have out there and to have it as a channel to deliver new potential customers for you. So in the digitalized world, this is very important. And the one thing that you don't see on the lines behind is that you have to have it all integrated with your CRM system. So this is automatically driven for the real estate agent, because time is a lack resource for the agent. So therefore, we have to automate as much as possible in the process. For the visitor coming to the company's webpage, like this webpage in our case, we also have to have different kind of forms that it's easy for the customer to fill in, so they can book a valuation, a personal valuation, which give you the exact valuation of the estate, but also kind of automatical algorithm that can give you just in-between value. But we always recommend that don't trust that value. You have to have the personalized meeting to see what the real value of your estate is. But to work with the web and to work with the web integrated with the CRM system gives you a lot of new clients. In my company, we actually gives our real estate agents some 20, 30, 35,000 new meetings with clients just through our webpage and our digital presence. So it's a very, very huge source of new business that we have in front of us. If we then add these social media ads on top of this, then it's another channel where we have to go both present the listings, but also kind of in an emotional channel. And if we work with it just and compare, we did a study in my company at Svensk Fastighetsförmedling, where we looked at all sales for the last 10 running months, approximately 25,000 sales. And looked at the one that had no social media ads promoting the listing, the one that had the basic package, and the one that had the premium package in level. And we can see the difference in all three levels, none, basic, and premium. But just to go from none to presence in social media advertising gives you more visitors for the open house, gives you more willing people to go into the bid process, and definitely gives you a much higher end price. So this is also a very important part, because if you go in the social media, if you just look at the traditional way for the customer who goes into the portals to go to your company's web page and so, then you're quite active in your search of your new home. But if you go on the social media, we can find the ones that might be interested if the right listing comes out. So you can reach them in another way. And that's quite interesting to be able to gain more business for the future. But then also, even if we go to social medias, then we have to have the right landing pages, the right questions, the right emotional feeling, so we can put it directly in the CRM system and automate it for the agent. Also, we have done a big survey among the customers who have come in contact with us in a digital way, digital leads, and then we see that time is very crucial if it's going to be a business or not out from the lead. If we were able to answer the incoming lead within 5 minutes, we had a 95% chance of getting a new business, a new sale out of it. If we waited 2 hours with the answer, then the percentage, the chance of getting it as a business went down to 50%. And if we waited 24 hours, then it was down to 5%. And naturally, it sounds quite natural when you hear it, but in the daily work, is it really possible to act on this as a real estate agent? I would say to be able to secure that, we have to think totally different. Let the real estate agent work with the things that creates value, meaning the presentation of the listing, the negotiation with the clients and doing all that kind of stuff in the process. But to be able to catch up these very quick calls from digital leads, we have to connect it with kind of a customer center function, call center function that works and can be the prolonged real estate agent service. So if we let the customer center directly contact, all the digital leads go to the contact center and they mark it as a booking in the real estate agent's Outlook, then it will also this way be automized process. And beside the automized process for the agent, the customer will be much more happy with the speed and that we really see what they are looking for. So that will higher the quality and will give a much happier client at the end. So to qualify the leads is as essential as just getting the leads in there. If we qualify them by the call center, then the real estate agent knows which they have to act on directly, which they can act on the other day or another week, or which they can have in the box and take a contact with maybe in 2-3 months time from now. And then they, in working with that, and in that way, they can gain new business for the future. So that's a quite new way of thinking, as I see it, because a lot of the real estate agents think that me as a person is the one that has to have every part of the contact chain with the client. It's not. It's how you communicate that is the important thing, not who does it. So therefore, this is part of qualifying the leads. If we look a little bit further, actually, look, what's the future? Then we see a lot of things happening right now. And naturally, this is something that we also have to act on to be able to gain new leads for the future. We see the voice revolution, and if we compare that, you have the Amazon Alexa, you have the Siri, the Google Home functions, every kind of smart speaker that is part of your home. But if you, as a customer, don't find the real estate agents there, then you're not part of that part of the search. And I think that a lot of the companies out in the market don't work with that today because it's so new, but it's essential to be there for the future. And we also see that with the 5G rollout among the cities and countries, then we are very much into the data-driven cities where we can connect a lot of functions. And as every device will get smarter and smarter with more capacity each and every day, this is something that we have to use and can use to be able to also get new customers for the future. If we compare and add the artificial intelligence and the knowledge about how people act out there, we also add the virtual reality and augmented reality. That will give a full new expression of the listing for the clients. And you will, not very far away from now, be able to walk out in the streets and see a lot of information about potential listings that might be out on the market just by walking around the streets. And that is what new technology creates. And the interesting thing, if we look at the last 1.5 years with Corona, it has created a new customer behavior. And a survey we did with the end consumer were about the acceptance for full e-commerce of shopping the houses or apartments. And 25% of the audience said that, yes, we would very much love to buy it fully by an e-commerce process. And that is also a way of thinking how to gain new business. So if that is part of the future, then we have to be in the future and look at these kind of questions to be successful. New technology really creates new customer behavior. It's not driven by our industry, but we're part of it, and we're part of what the clients does out there. So by that, I would say the winner for the future and the one who can get more leads, can create leads into more business, is the one who is best on the market, looking around the corner and are innovative, looking for new things, new technology, and new behaviors that will be essential in the next upcoming years. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Erik. How do you feel?
Well, it feels good. I mean, it's exciting to be on this kind of event, but it's always doing this is pulse. It's intensive.
As in sales?
As in sales.
You talk a lot about the importance of, staying digital and especially social media presence. But what would you say are like the keys to succeed with this? Because it's not only, you can't just do it and then succeed because of the channels in themselves.
No, first, I think you have to base it in your own strategy. It's not something that's just happening outside. It must be a core process in your strategy. And I think you also have to ground it back to your brand strategy and your core values in the company to see what differs us from our competitors. When you're honest all the way, then you will be honest in the presence in the customer life also.
Is this an expensive strategy to have?
Wouldn't say so. It's expensive when you not do it because we have to be where the clients or potential clients are. And if we can be a huge part of their life, there will be a huge part of our business.
What if 5 years from now, what do you think will happen in terms of the digital development in this field?
Well, it's quite an interesting phase we are right now when we see Facebook announced just a few days ago that they will go into the metaverse reality. And how will that affect us? I mean, we don't know yet.
No.
But I think that when it comes to personal devices and the capacity there, and the way of looking at estates in augmented reality or virtual reality, extended paid versions, that will be a much. It will give you an impression of being and seeing, believing everything about the estate in another way than today. So the appearance there is quite essential, and also the way of finding customers. I think I predicted 15 years ago that all kind of print advertising will be gone, but still there are target groups, but not to be able to present the listing, but for presenting the brands. It's good.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Thank you again. Very insightful. Thank you, Erik. So the Global Real Conference of 2021 is now over. How do you feel, Rikard?
I'm feeling glad. It was a challenge to put this all together, but I'm very happy that we went through these 3 days.
Yeah, what was the challenge? Was this with this digital event?
I mean, it's digital, and but first off, we are working with a lot of different time zones since it's a global conference. So it creates a bit of struggle.
Yeah. What are you? I mean, what will you bring from this event home with you to work with?
I mean, a lot of different insights from different...
Like what?
I would say, first off, we weren't speaking that much about storytelling and the use of content. And that is definitely something we could be doubling down on.
Yeah, I agree. We talked a lot about, hard data like attribution processes and measuring and understanding data and, how tech can help us as real estate agents. And not us, but you know what I mean. But very little about the soft values of content, which actually has a very, very big role in digital. I think we need to talk more about that. So there's room for another conference.
There's definitely room for another conference.
Yeah. What do you think? We also talked a lot about, many of our guests shared their success stories and insights from their different markets. What do you think? What is the key for a real estate agent to become successful in the future?
I believe that real estate is still a people business. So you really need to have...
So you don't need data?
You need data, of course, and you should still measure your strategies, your digital strategies as well. But, I mean, there's this human connection is super important.
So you don't need, hard data at all?
You need hard data, so you can measure what you're doing and what is giving you results. But you definitely need to double down on the human experience as well.
Maybe the key is a mix here.
That would, yeah.
Yeah. One of my reflections are, coming from a totally different industry, and I'm not at all in real estate. That is that we really, really need to talk about digital as a standalone product. This is integrated in everything that we do. It's also integrated in, our audience and our target group's behavior. And that, I think, is the key that we need to follow